at least we're working towards the same goals. So I would say, it depends on how young we're talking, but I would definitely put that in a top category of things to look for in a long-term partner, is somebody that, you at least have similar values when it comes to that.
Welcome, millionaires and future millionaires. You're listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast, a show where you'll hear the stories and interviews of everyday millionaires. We'll unveil their decisions, their strategies, and their portfolio allocation. Now to your host, Jace Mattinson.
Welcome to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast. This is episode number 372.
In this podcast, we roll out the red carpet to reveal the secrets of the stars of the financial world. We are your hosts, Jace and Stacy, with Jace taking the charge today as we dive into the dazzling world of wealth and success, Hollywood style. Get ready for an inside look at the real-life blockbusters of money making. As always, our interviews are unscripted and only edited to stay family-friendly. Lights, camera, action. Let's unveil today's millionaires.
Lights, camera, net worth is what it really is, but all good. Today we got Ryan and Haley. It's going to be an interesting episode. You got $1 million and $1,050,000 net worth, newly minted millionaires, and come from the production and media side of kind of the world. So new professions, new approaches. They do a lot of freelance work, consulting, etc., in addition to kind of having some W-2 sprinkled in there. But I think it'll be really, really resonate. Most of their wealth is in retirement-related accounts and investments in the market, but they did just recently make a huge purchase of some land and cash for a future build. So going to be a great episode with them. As always, if you're interested in being on the show, send us an email, millionairesunveiled@gmail.com. Also looking for that net worth millionaire of 400 plus for episode 400 coming up. You got to send us a note. I'd love to have you. Got a lot of great guests coming up, some new professions. We were just talking, there were a couple of professions that you were calling out that you haven't seen or heard of since we started the show.
Yeah, I don't recall having a videographer or a cinematographer, which is funny because today we have people in this kind of a producer world, but I haven't recalled a videographer or cinematographer that I put on.
Yeah, or photographer just in general. I think maybe one or two of those. I don't know. No artists. I don't think we've had like a music artist or even somebody that paints or draws. Which maybe we did have one of those. I don't know.
I'm only laughing because the fact that you're calling out an artist, which is lovely. I can't get you to go to I couldn't get you to go to the Louvre in Paris.
Yeah, I like different kind of art. And look in my office, I do pay for some art. It's just not the art that, I like Picasso stuff, and I appreciate it. But when I'm on vacation, that particular day, I just wanted to, want to ride my bike down the Champs-Élysées.
He's not a museum guy, okay, but he does appreciate art. But I can't get him to go to a museum, but he could look at a piece of art. But we'd love to have someone on the show.
Anyway, crazy September going to be, or it's going to be probably a crazy September. I think we're going to see what appears to be a rate decrease. So we've had quite a run here with rates pretty high and rates stable, and the economy kind of in a interesting state the last little bit. And I am curious to see how that affects our millionaire interviewees coming up, and more so the ones that we'll probably do next year, because I wonder how many people start making adjustments this year, whether it's buying a new home, getting a mortgage, changing, moving up. Yeah, all these little things that kind of take place in our daily lives that kind of affect some of the financial decisions that we do, and maybe in some cases, maybe never do. I don't know. So that'll be interesting as we kind of see some movements here over the next few weeks, hopefully. Without any further delay, let's get right into the episode with Ryan and Haley. Ryan and Haley, do you want to just give us about your background and what you're up to now?
Sure. Ryan and I were married. We met at work. We're both in the entertainment industry. I am a video producer and a host on camera. and Ryan is behind the scenes and an editor. So he likes when I talk for him, but I'll let him talk for a second.
Yeah, we met about 11 years ago, at work in LA, actually. And
we've made some things together. Typically we keep our work separate, but we moved from LA. We now live in Atlanta, Georgia, have 2 little kiddos. And Ryan's a video editor, works on all types of docuseries and sports. We met at Red Bull. And so I also am in sports content creation. I have a full-time job remote, thank God. And that's what we do for work.
That's off to the Red Bull. I'm going to have one while we record this. So kudos to y'all. I like my Red Bull.
Do you? I love that. That makes me happy.
I do. Red Bull's got a special place in my heart. Okay, so you meet at work. I want to get into all the details of meeting at work because I think that might be one of the first times we've had somebody who met on work, got married, and are millionaires. But before we do, what's your net worth today?
We're just over $1 million. We're at $1 million. I don't know how to say it. $1,050,000.
Yeah, $1,000,050,000. No, is that right? Yes. So we made it over $1 million probably like a few weeks ago. It was definitely a big moment for us. We were excited. We had a little toast, a glass of wine together. We have like $1,050,000.
Nice, congrats! So a newly minted millionaire couple and coming to do the little $1 million holler. I like it. How is the $1,050,000 broken up?
So we just pretty much used up a lot of our cash. So to buy some land. So cash, we're sitting at like $40,000.
Which, by the way, is the lowest that we've literally ever had since we've known each other when we were 23 years old. So, like I said, we've been a little uncomfortable for probably the last 4 weeks. Obviously, we're still working and things are coming in. And, Ryan gets on big projects, so we get chunks at a time too. But this is definitely the lowest we've ever been from a cash perspective. But
it's probably, I think we're a little safer. So we always held more cash than we probably should have. But, so that's how much we're sitting with cash. Investments, we're at $650K. And then the land, we have $280,000. We bought that cash. And then we have about $100,000 in equity in our primary home that we live in currently.
Nice. So the money that's in investments, you said $650,000?
Yep.
Is that in retirement accounts, or kind of give us the breakdown of what that looks like?
Yeah. So most of it is in retirement accounts between our 401ks, Roth IRAs. But we have about $50,000 in a brokerage account and about $10,000 in HSA, got like $20,000 in crypto. Pretty much the rest is in IRAs and 401ks.
Okay. And the money that's in the IRAs, 401ks, is that all invested in equities, index funds, mutual funds?
Yeah, we're we've gone the safe route, and it's all like in index funds, just tracking the S&P 500 for the most part. Pretty much in all of those.
Okay. How long have you been investing in those 401ks and IRAs?
So throughout our whole 20, like I was lucky enough to have a mentor in work, but he also kind of helped me in life things too. And he told me about a Roth IRA one day at work, and I first time ever hearing about it. And
same for me, for him, obviously.
Yeah. And I immediately looked into it, invested that same day, maxed out the Roth, and told her as well. And we both just maxed it out every year, pretty much throughout our whole 20s, but
until we couldn't.
Yeah, until we couldn't. But that was kind of all we did for a lot of years, because I just didn't really know what else I could do. And so it's more recent that the last 3 or 4 years, I would say, we've gone a lot heavier into other avenues.
If you learn anything about my husband on this podcast, he's an all or nothing type of person. And so when you learn something, he's like, I am all in. And so basically, to his point, we didn't really have any guidance as to what to do properly. And we're very similar in a lot of ways when it comes to finances. I am way more safe. I like to be more safe. I like to be comfortable and make sure that like I always have more money than I ever could need to use just in case. Obviously, I probably need to go to therapy for that, but no. But I think we both had these, like, I think we were probably 24 or 25, probably had like 70,000 or 100,000 in our savings account for years. Like, it wasn't smart what we were doing, but we were trying, we were the type of people where when we lived in LA, we lived with 4 different people and saved money. Like, we were really intentional about where we put our money, but we just had this gigantic goose egg sitting in a Bank of America account, or I did, for years and years and years. And then,
we just had it mostly sitting in cash and then maxing out our Roths every year, which obviously isn't.
And I had a 401k during a lot of those years as well.
Yeah. But for a long time, that was kind of all we were doing. And then more recently, we've been going pretty heavy into a brokerage account over the last like 4 years or so. And then learning about other ways to, with HSAs and just other accounts that we can also, contribute to besides just the Roth.
So when you first learned about that Roth account from your mentor at work, had y'all gotten married yet?
No.
Dating.
So you were dating at the time. Ryan, you get a mentor that says, hey, I'm investing in this Roth IRA, or kind of walk us through kind of how that conversation and because to have that fortitude at early 20s, mid 20s to take the advice of a coworker that's like, hey man, I got this Roth thing, like you should check it out. And you're like, I'm in, like, this is awesome. Like, walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah. And I had never even heard of it before, which, I don't know how. I was like 22 and had never even heard of it, but
our daughter's 2 years old and she knows what it is now. Just kidding.
But yeah, I pretty much trusted a lot of things he said because every time I listened to him, it worked out well, in work and outside of that. So I took his word like pretty highly. And then I looked into it, like, I want to say that same day, and within like a day or two, I maxed out and told her, and she maxed hers out too.
And of course, being not having any knowledge of it, as somebody who, is holding on to that goose egg, I'm like, okay, if I put this in here, like what happens, what happens? Is it risky? I didn't really understand what it was. But then when Ryan did some research, even just like a good old search on Google, we're like, oh yeah, this.
Well, that was like learning about the Roth. I felt really good about, like, just from the research, but then, it was a lot harder actually figuring out like what to invest in.
Of course, the Roth was obviously an easy one. And I think for us, to your point, being in your mid 20s and being like, oh, I'm going to put, I think it was like 5,000 at the time, or maybe 6,500. I can't remember, but we are by nature savers. Like we do think almost like sometimes too much in the future. Like we're always like, okay, we have this freelance job. We have to make sure that we don't have to work the rest of our lives. Like it really is a driver for us, is like, okay, we know the nature of our jobs is freelance majority. And so it is a huge priority for us to feel like we're setting ourselves and our families up for the future. So it's more in both of our natures. Like we don't have an issue being like, okay, I got money from work and it's going to go into this thing and I'm not going to see it for a really long time. Like that's actually comes pretty naturally to us, I think.
So you start putting money into this Roth. Was that every January 1, hey, I'm committing to this 5,000, 6,000, 6,500, whatever it was? Was it January 1 type thing? That was kind of the strategy that you started deploying throughout your 20s?
I think it was around taxes, wasn't it? I feel like it was.
No, I was super, like I was ready months before to just like, I just always wanted to do it the first day that I possibly could. But I think over time we started waiting because I think our life got a little more complex and then we could wait till tax season to.
When we would remember like, oh yeah, I remember one tax year, I don't even remember, we were a couple years into dating at that point. And obviously we both were doing that. That was like the one thing we were individually doing on our own for the future. and being like confused on whether or not we had to do it before the 15th or if you just had to do it in January, and then like having to go back in our accounts and even see if we had done it that year. I remember having that moment of like, it was definitely a priority for us though every year.
Do you know how much at this point has been growth in those accounts versus how much you put in? Because it's not often we have people on this the show that really started this in your 20s. And if you don't mind me sharing, y'all are what, in your early to mid 30s at this point? So you've got at least a decade of contributing. So maybe 50 to 60 grand, maybe 70, 140 between the two of y'all, however much you put in your 401k. I mean, it seems like the growth at this point, that snowball of compounded interest, you're probably at critical mass where the growth has far outweighed how much you've actually put in there. Would that be correct?
Yeah. I think that's definitely accurate. And that is exciting too for, 15 more years or 20 more years or further, like to see what that's going to do. But I honestly don't know how much it has been just growth, but I guess I could figure that out.
Is there a point at which you possibly would decide to stop contributing because it's going in the trajectory in the direction you want to go? Or is it, hey, I'm still going to contribute every year no matter what? Yeah.
I got into some trouble because it's just everything's been a learning curve. And as I've gotten more into it, I keep, learning more things that we can try. But at a certain point, we exceeded the income limit, to contribute to Roth. So then I started contributing to doing a backdoor. And I think I did that a couple years without really knowing the pro rata rule and all that. Which I still don't fully understand, but I know that I can't have other money and other IRAs at the same time.
We're in trouble is what he's trying to say.
Like we have to go back.
You're confessing to the IRS right now? Is that what's going on?
Yes, I hope you're not listening.
We have to go back now and make it all right.
Yeah, that's literally on our to-do list currently with we just are getting a new tax person for a lot of reasons, but we are like, okay, we have to complete that paperwork because we didn't realize that. I mean, and that's the hard part without having we might have a good mentor who's like, here's a couple things you should do. But when it comes to really being strategic and smart, like Ryan's super interested in finance. And so, like I said, an all or nothing type of person, he went down rabbit holes. Like when we had our daughter, like he was up at 2 a.m, like with headphones on while she's crying, like watching finance podcasts, and are listening. And so he learned, but then there's so many nuances that, we messed up. We're trying to do the right thing, but we're learning as we go.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I think we're probably, at least at the moment, we're just done. We're done contributing to Roth, to the IRAs, right now.
Will you still put money into a 401k, or the brokerage is the route from here on out? And then I guess you just bought some real estate and some land. I mean, what kind of trajectory do you see yourselves going on now in terms of your asset allocation with your earnings and your investments?
We're really lucky with the 401k because, like I said, we're both in this industry where typically you're put on project to project and it's not a W-2 type situation. Because of having babies, I am at a full-time job. So I do have a 401k, and Ryan somehow, some way ended up he found a gig that they give him a 401k as long as he works a certain number of hours a year. And so we do both have we contribute and max out our 401ks every year currently.
Yeah. Most of our careers, she's had one longer, about half of her career probably. She's had a 401k and she's always maxed that out. I've only had one the last couple of years, like through this gig that she's talking about. And then, so we're doing those for sure, putting as much, like maxing them out if we can. And then just a weekly contribution to the brokerage and her HSA as well.
When did you start that HSA?
That's only been
2 years.
The last couple of years with this current job that she's had. I don't think you ever had the opportunity before. Yeah. And then I actually had the opportunity 1 year through the same gig to do an HSA. So the HSA stuff is pretty new for us. We're at like 10 or 15,000 only in that.
And do you plan to continue to grow that through investments, or do you think you'll use it for healthcare that comes up throughout the year from a strategy standpoint?
Yeah, so that's something I've been trying to learn about too, which I'm not, like, I need to research more, but it seems as though like we can keep investing in that and letting that grow, and then later down the road, if we save receipts and stuff, potentially being able to like reimburse. I need to learn more about that strategy, but I think we're not going to use it if we don't have to.
Gotcha. Do you have like a target net worth or a target investment portfolio number that you're aiming towards at this point, being so young and already kind of well on your way?
Yeah, I feel like it's might be a moving target for us, especially because our lifestyle now is a lot cheaper than what it could be at the place that we're going to build a house, and things might change. But I think we've done some math and calculated what we think might be a good number for us, and it's probably around 3 or 3.5 million currently. Might change, but
nice. Do you plan on retiring early at all once you hit that number?
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of the goal, is to get there and then see how old we are, see what we want to do, but just pretty much just having the independence of not needing to work, but working if we want to. That's the goal. Yeah. That's our goal as soon as we can.
We're both like very passionate people and love the work that we do. Ryan's his job's a little bit more taxing on his body and mind. So for him to be able to pick a series to work on for the year or two, like being able to, his point, have that option. I'm probably the type of person who would want to work till the day that I die, but I don't want to have to.
Yeah, I hear you on that. So let's switch gears here a little bit. One of the, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but the subject line that you wrote in with, which I think is awesome, is lights, camera, net worth. Let's switch gears to talking a little bit about kind of the career paths, especially because, being in media and the different verticals that y'all are in, that is very unique and something that I don't know that we've ever really touched on. So take us back to the early days of, maybe even high school, going into kind of post-high school years. How did you kind of choose this career path and navigate us through what that's looked like over the last decade and some change for you?
I think she might have been more meant for this path, or like she was on this path a lot sooner than me. So I'll let you go. Okay. But somehow I ended up in this too.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. I think that even though, I'm sure everyone's career paths have different twists and turns. Mine was a little bit more natural. In high school, I was, even as a young kid, like in middle school, I was doing the news at, Cub News on TV. And in general, I just would love storytelling, very theatrical, very much enjoyed performing and, telling stories, making people laugh. And so, when I went to college, I went to UGA and I did journalism and theater. And so at that time, it's funny because now journalism is, there's so many things. There's mixed media. They have like all these channels now. Whereas when I was going through I graduated in 2010, it was just journalism. So the normal path was news. So I remember I had an interview with a news station somewhere, and I remember I was walking through campus during the interview, which obviously I was not passionate about that interview. And I remember them asking me a bunch of like current news questions that someone that would work for a news station should know. And I I pretended multiple times that my phone lost service. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. So that I could run to the library and like open up a computer and Google the questions. Like they would literally ask like, who's the vice president? And I'm like, I don't know. No, not really. Not really the vice president, but they were asking me very topical news stories that someone who was interested in that path should do. And I pretty much realized in that moment, like, okay, the news is not the place for me. But I ended up doing some acting on some shows, and then I moved to LA and I ended up at Red Bull, which is kind of the catalyst of us meeting. But while we were there, they were starting Red Bull TV, which is essentially like a media network that they wanted to create content for. And so what I've learned through my path, because obviously there's a lot of twists and turns. I moved to New York and worked for MTV News, and I did all these kind of random things, but I realized that every job that I ended up having, I created. Like, it was never a job I interviewed for. I actually realized a couple of days ago, I was having this conversation that the last interview that I had was in 2011 and it's 2024. So I realized like, oh, I'm good at pitching and creating. And so I pitched a show that I hosted and produced for Red Bull. And Ryan was actually my free and lovely editor who helped me pitch that show. I would not have probably got it if he hadn't have been on that with me. And that's pretty much the last time we worked together. I'm just kidding. And yeah, so for me, it was a little bit more linear. Like, I always had a passion for storytelling on and off camera. My job currently is I'm a producer globally, but a lot of what I do is interviewing, getting to know people and telling their stories. So yeah, that's my path. And Ryan he's also a super, super talented storyteller and creator. And he has like a beautiful mind, but yeah, his path's definitely different.
My mom always thought my sister was going to be like the artist or creative or whatever. And I was going to be the opposite. I was always into sports, but yeah, she just didn't peg me as the creative type. And then when I was like approaching 20 or so, I was racing motocross growing up and everything. And
he was a weird homeschool kid.
Yeah. I was racing and stuff. And then I started I got a camera or whatever and just started filming friends. And then I would go home and edit the videos for like 8 hours and just lose track of time. And I just started realizing that I really enjoyed that. So when I was kind of phasing out of racing and everything, I went to a trade school. My parents encouraged me to go to a trade school and do that. So I did that. And then it stuck. I have a lot of passion for it. And I just never did that stuff growing up. So I didn't really know until I was doing it.
But I think something to note, like, I know I keep joking, like he's an all or nothing type of person. Like, his obsession for racing and motocross, like he was the type of person who worked out every day, like a professional athlete, right? Like, focused on everything that he does. And then he took that same passion and kind of obsession and put it into his work. And so, everything that he does and did was, even though he was homeschooled, he went to a trade school. And then even though, you have a more introverted personality, and editors in general are typically like jokingly behind the keyboard, he's actually so obsessed with the job and storytelling that he puts himself out there and he reaches out to, like, I've never seen someone in my entire life manifest more than he does. Like, whether you know that you're doing that or not, like, he will watch a series and he will study it over and over and over again. And then he'll figure out who created it. And then he'll like work up the guts and send them an email and be like, hey, I'm Ryan. This is my work. And like thinking, oh, this person's never going to respond. And then now his work has gotten, good enough that when he sends an email, like, he is getting responses and he is getting the opportunity. And like, I know I'm his cheerleader hype woman over here, but like, even in this meeting, I'm laughing because he's positioned the camera so that you see our kids' artwork instead of the Emmys that he has like next to it, like, that's just who he is. Like, he cares about his work. I mean, he cares about, he's not the person that's going to brag on himself, but he just cares so much. And that's why I'm just so confident, even though it's freelance and my like protective, I want to know that I'm having money every single week self is like, oh no, that's scary. I have full confidence. Like, he will work. He will always have work because he cares about it.
But it does kind of make sense that I became an editor because for the most part, I'm in a dark room by myself.
So let's talk. You've touched on, Haley, a couple times, like the way that you are wired versus the way that Ryan's wired, specifically with how it relates to your finances. And I'm curious, like growing up, did you realize that? Was it later in life? Is there something that may have triggered, having kind of that security blanket, or that maybe even for both of you where it's like, hey, we're at $40,000 cash and that's the absolute least we've ever had in our marriage. And it's crazy right now. Feeling that, bought a piece of land in cash that you're going to plan to build on. Walk us through that a little bit from a mindset standpoint on how you arrive, and how you kind of navigated that through the last decade or so.
I think like when you ask the question about, have you always been like that? Was there a trigger in your child? Like, what is it that maybe has made you wired the way you are financially? I think for me, totally my dad. My dad is very frugal. I found that for myself, like I try not to be that frugal. I think sometimes he might limit life a little bit with that. I try really hard to not let that be our reality. But I think for us also, I moved to LA when I was 22. And I remember specifically I had $1,700, $1,700 in my bank account. And I didn't have a place to live yet. And I had a part-time job out there. And I was like, that's enough to go. And so $700 was used on the drive out there because I drove a Mustang from Georgia to California. So 3 nights of hotels, gas, food, and like a deposit on an apartment, right? When I get there. And I remember my parents saying like and I love them for this, but like, they're not going to help me. Like if you want to move to LA, you have to do it. And so I remember I made the least amount of money in my professional career the first year that I lived in LA. I want to say I was probably making like 16 an hour, maybe 14, can't really remember. But I remember I saved more money in that year than I do bringing in $250,000 a year. Literally, like I was making probably 50, not even like $40,000 a year. And I think I saved like almost most of it. And I remember being that person at dinner that like, we'd go out to drink, go out with friends, and I would be the one that would like tiptoe over to the waitress and be like, hey, I'm only going to get a Sprite. So here's like $6, because I didn't want to be like, oh, we'll just split it. Cause I'm like, I can't afford it. And so flash forward, like I then went through a I went through a phase when like I had more money where I didn't want to ever have to be that person. And so I would always like, if people said to split it, I'd be like, oh, I'll get it. And then Ryan's like, okay, we can't do that forever, but okay. But yeah, I think that's my history there. And then you can say yours and then we can go into the house.
Yeah. I think my dad was pretty frugal. Like,
no, just like your history of like why you think you are spinning the way you are.
Yeah. I think a little bit from my dad, he was pretty frugal with everything. And then I think it's just
your nature.
You can skip mine.
No, I think it's just your nature. Like,
yeah.
Ryan, his parents joke that like they told him one time to make his bed when he was a kid and like, you need to do this every morning, and he's done it every morning since. So like, I think when things just make sense.
I think it's like, yeah, if I see or hear from experts, or just if I hear that there's a right path to do that something, then if I buy into that, then I can stick to that.
What's super interesting though, and we talk about this a lot, is like our siblings, not like this at all. Our moms, not like this at all. Pretty much none of our family, like not like this. And we kind of joke, like, I mean, this is the honest to God truth. We live in a neighborhood, and all of our friends, out of every single person in this neighborhood, we have this car, 100%. I mean, we have a nice car that like, we have one nice car that's a Toyota hybrid that we can put both of our kids in. But we have Ryan's 2011 2011 Chrysler, and it's got like over 200,000 miles on it, and it's fine. But my point being is that we have one of, that's not something we care about. And that's kind of like an omen, or is that the right word? It's basically like explains who we are. Like, we don't need the nicest things. We don't need, I will say that is something about us that we both can be very happy under ours. We feel like we have enough, our countertops for sure. Like, they could be nicer and white and farmhousey, and we could replace the floors to be more whatever, but that's not something that we notice or care about. Sometimes we are like, oh man, that would be nice to like, we just went to somebody's house and they had a beautiful kitchen island. That would be really cool to have, but neither one of us care enough to do it. And so our long-term goal, like as long as we're happy and we're able to do the things we want to do, have the experiences we want to have, we love to travel, we love to like, well, we don't really go out to eat anymore with 2 little kids, but we typically used to like going out to eat. As long as we can do those things, and
yeah, it's mostly just the experiential stuff that we value,
Totally. And our childcare right now is like more than anything in the entire world. So there's that.
Yeah, those become like second mortgages for a lot of people, right?
It's so expensive.
Crazy. Well, awesome. Let's wrap up with some rapid fire questions. What is the and I want to hear answers from both of you on all these. So, what's the most expensive pair of pants or shoes that you purchased?
I mean, honestly, I don't think I've ever spent over $70 on a pair. No, that's not true. I just went to a thrift store.
It's rapid fire.
Oh, sorry. $70 on pants and maybe like $100, $120 on like nice running shoes.
Yeah, actually, because I listen to this every week, I'm always kind of blown away that I think I've spent more on shoes than anyone else on the show, which is crazy.
I love it. Let's hear it.
Well, these like, the On cloud running. Yeah, like I just got a pair again because I love them, but $170.
What?
They're crazy.
What are
Yeah. I wear them for like 4 years or more.
That's funny.
Hey, if you're wearing them that often, your price per wear probably gets down under $1. So like, no biggie, right? Like that's affordable.
I'll wear them for like 5 years.
Yeah, that's all right, right? What's the most expensive meal out that you've had?
Ooh.
Yeah, this is our honeymoon.
Yeah, what was that? Do you remember? I want to say the meal was like $600. I think it was.
No, I think it was more.
Was it? Call it like $600 or $700, and we about crapped our pants.
It was very minimal food, but that's probably most honeymoon experiences.
Do you remember what restaurant it was? Was it sushi or was it some sort of high-end meat? Or
yeah, it was some sushi. We were in the Maldives, just trapped on an island. So like everything food wise,
everything had a 0 on it.
Oh my god!
They could charge whatever they wanted, and we couldn't say anything.
It was an experience dinner where they like made it right in front of you, yada yada yada. But still, never again. Perfect for a honeymoon.
Yeah,
let's just say that.
I think it was more than that.
That's awesome. What about the most expensive experience or trip? I mean, that may be it. Going to the Maldives, that's not cheap, but is there something more?
I want to say the Maldives all in was probably like $12,000, which is crazy because we traveled the world, literally the whole world. Almost, not really, but we've been to a lot of countries together, and we would do it so frugally. Like we would have amazing dinners and experiences and sailboats and all of those things, but we would stay super cheap, like in a hostel or an Airbnb. And I want to say that the most expensive one of that must have been like a 3-week trip, probably for like $5,000.
Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love your profession?
That's hard.
Depends on the day.
I love and hate it. I'll say a 8.
Really? I'm shocked about that.
Like I love what I do, but I don't like the side effects of it.
The amount of times he's told me he's completely changing professions. No, he really does though. I would say I'm probably, an 8 or a 9.
Okay. What's the craziest thing that you've ever done to earn money?
You've done some.
I got 2 weird ones. I was a singing waitress in New York City. So I like sang while also delivering burgers and shakes. And I also put the lids on kitty litter bags on a conveyor belt when I was in high school. Cause I just went to this agency that placed like random jobs, like 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there. And I literally had to wear a full hazmat suit, like a delivery suit, like I was having a baby or delivering a baby. And I had to sit there, and I don't know why this part had to be a human being, but I had to like secure a lid on this like kitty litter bag.
I don't really have any weird ones. I wasn't earning money, but back when I was racing, I went to the gym that I was working out at, and long story short, I became I ended up cleaning the locker rooms and bathrooms for them to have a free membership.
Smart.
So it wasn't earning money, but I got a free membership out of it.
Not surprised.
Okay. What's the dumbest thing you've ever wasted money on?
Honestly, probably anything I bought in the middle of the night while breastfeeding my baby. Whatever that was.
Whatever infomercial or ad you got hit up with?
Yeah.
Some weird TikTok or Instagram ad that I was I have to have this when I hadn't slept for 5 months.
Yeah, it was probably something when we were sleep deprived with a newborn.
Every new parent understands what that means.
Yeah.
I know what I'll say. I'll say this baby food processor that I was okay, this time around, I've done this before. I'm going to make my baby's food. And that just is literally still in the box. I appreciate and respect so much the people who do that, but it was just not a feasible route for me.
What's something that you've spent way too much on, but you don't regret it?
That piece of land we just bought.
Yeah.
That's scary. That's scary. That amount of money was scary.
What was your first job?
For me, it was working construction for my dad.
I was a receptionist at a spa.
Remember how much you made?
Well,
Or working for dad, he didn't pay you much?
No, Ryan's $100,000.
No. I really, I started going to work with him when I was a kid, and he would have me pick up screws and nails and stuff and pay me 10 cents per screw or nail. So I guess that's technically the first money I made.
I want to say that I probably made 10 an hour, I think.
Okay. What financial habit has changed the most since you became a millionaire? Which I guess you've been newly minted, but has there been a financial habit, I guess, in the last year or two as you've been approaching it that you've changed?
I would say the last couple years, we've really started investing heavier every week, more amounts than all of our 20s where we just weren't upping it. We've gone a lot heavier more recently.
I kind of feel like I love challenges. And so, when we when we bought the land and a big chunk of that kind of comfy cash was gone, I was okay, I'm going to make sure that we eat every single thing in the pantry. I think it's more so I actually enjoy the mindset, not saying that we have to be like that, but I like working towards a goal. So if it's the first million, or if it's, our goal is to make, my goal this year is to make $175,000 outside of my W-2 job. I want to be making that consulting, doing projects. I have goals. And so I think it's more so seeing a goal that we can work towards together, whether that's trying to be better about not wasting money in groceries or getting a certain number of jobs, or amount of money at the end of the year. I think just now that we have kind of a North Star of a goal, working towards something, I would say.
Okay. If you got awarded a $10,000 shopping spree, which store are you spending it at? Or stores if you need to.
Probably Home Depot or something for our house. But I would, if I wanted something that I could have fun with, it would be for pickleball stuff. That's what I'm into.
Ooh. It's hard because we really don't shop. I know that sounds weird, but
that's why I'm asking this question now.
Yeah, it is hard.
Oh,
it's a new one. It's I've kind of thrown it into the mix.
Yeah, I like it.
A little stumper.
Oh, I feel my first thought was, an REI or something, but we don't camp, so I don't know why. I would love to camp. That's just not in our current cards, but I was thinking, experience. What's something I could buy that we could experience? So if I could buy a $10,000 used camper and there was a store for that, I would do that.
They have that Camping World, right? Maybe not 10,000, but
Camping World discount Memorial Day sale.
How about does a car dealership count so I can replace my
that too?
That
works. Awesome. What was a key lesson you learned from childhood?
For me, definitely hard work. My dad instilled that in me a lot, and kind of said there's going to be more talented people. There's always going to be people that are better, more talented, but if you work really hard, you'll be able to, you can still surpass them. So for me, that's that.
I'm just saying rapidly what comes to my brain because I'm clearly not good at rapid answers. I feel like my childhood taught me there's so much joy in life. So I don't have to have the nicest things or the best like, I feel like in any stage of life, whether it's hardship or not, without a long backstory, like I experienced a lot of loss as a child. My brother passed away. Like there was a lot of really, really crazy, hard things the family has to endure. And my family was always able to laugh and always able to have fun. And so for me, I think that has made me who I am. And that's why, I am happy where we're at, whether we have $40,000 in a savings account or we've made it into the $1 million goal that we wanted. Like not much changes. When you say what changed when you made $1 million, like we're same exact thing. We just like had a nice bottle of wine,
Okay. What's a closely held belief that you once had that you recently changed your mind on?
So many things.
Yeah. Well,
closely held belief.
This has nothing to do with finance or anything, but before having kids, we used to like, I guess we would judge parents a little bit when we were out and seeing them, throw them the iPads or whatever. And like now we're like, the only way we can go to a restaurant is to have an iPad with us. Which we don't get to do a lot, but when we do, we want to enjoy it. So I guess that's something that's totally changed.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, I think I can't think of an exact one, but I would say having kids and just like in general in life, the number of times that I've been like, I used to say I would never do that. Or, and you just realize that you change in life.
That's awesome. I can definitely resonate on all the parental stereotypes. I been there, done that multiple times, especially, my wife and I joke about a lot of them because it was like, oh yeah, remember those days when we thought we were never going to, here we are.
Yep.
Oh
but,
yeah.
Yeah. We say that a lot too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Any last pieces of advice for somebody who's just starting out on their journey?
I wish that I would have known what I do now earlier. Like I just would have invested. I would have learned more sooner about it, like researched myself and just invested more earlier, and to benefit from the time, which we're still lucky we have a lot of time, but I would say just to be super focused on it earlier.
Yeah. I mean, not to make this about us being married and having dated through all of this, but this podcast has made me realize how important and or nice it is to have a partner who's also has the same financial mindset. Like it's never been like, yes, things can get stressful, but like we're always on the same page. So there's, at least we're working towards the same goals. So I would say, it depends on how young we're talking, but I would definitely put that in a top category of things to look for in a long-term partner, is somebody that, you at least have similar values when it comes to that.
Awesome. That's Ryan and Haley with a net worth of $1,050,000. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast with Jace Mattinson. For more stories, investment opportunities, and information, check out our website, millionairesunveiled.com. See you next time when you'll hear from another everyday millionaire.